So I wanted to talk for just a few minutes about one of my favorite aspects of the practice, and that's moha, delusion. So delusion and awareness, the role of awareness in relation to delusion. So delusion is there most of the time. Unless wisdom is present, then delusion will be complete. Sayadaw U Tejaniya says something like, when there's only delusion, it's just our conditioned responses that hold sway. There's very little by the way of choice or certainly creative choice. It's just sort of patterning that unfolds all the time. A push-pull system, I think he calls it. So it's quite mechanical. It's quite a mechanical sort of analogy when we're under the sway of delusion, which, as I say, is when wisdom is not present. Different levels, different aspects of delusion. And they're all impacted and something's revealed by mindful observation. So I want to look at what I call the delusion of being somewhere else. Caught in delusion or ignorance. That's the other way of talking about it. And ignorance, of course, ignoring is embedded in the word ignorance. So ignoring what's actually happening. Being lost in not seeing the true nature of what's happening, lost in fabrication, lost in contrivance, the way that we weave our story, the story of me and my world. Through our stories, thoughts, fragments of sense experience, all constructed together into a delusive whole, like a delusive sort of making an ongoing sort of, I don't know, cake that's being made with all these different ingredients being added at different times. So we're lost in this secondary reality. But really what it's talking about, this being somewhere else, is being disengaged from the present moment, disengaged from that primary reality of what's actually happening. And if we look at this with right view, we can see how topsy-turvy this is. It doesn't make sense that we engage with all this sort of secondary reality, but we're not really engaged with what's actually happening. And I think this I find this motivating in terms of wow, I could just connect with what's really there rather than what is being made up. What's being made up all the time, this made up world. So I find it quite encouraging to see this type of delusion when I can recognize it in experience of being somewhere else other than here right now with what's happening. But also it's helpful to remind myself that in those moments, then with that type of recognition, it means that right view is present, that actually I'm contributing to wisdom working in the mind, just through that recognizing that, oh, not somewhere else, here, just right here. So it's helpful to just get interested in what the state of being not here is like, as much as you can. I mean, usually it's just when we recognize and come back from having been lost in experience, from not being present. And you can see what the quality of the mind feels like in that time when we've been caught in some sort of story, some sort of longing, some sort of ideas about something. And maybe that little something is just a sort of kernel the actual experience can be very slight, but what's fabricated around it can be quite all-consuming at times. Yeah, so how does the mind feel in those times of unawareness, being otherwise engaged? And how does the mind feel when awareness is present, when there's this sense of presence to what's actually happening? Present to our sense experience, or present to our direct mind experience. And that may be, of course, being aware of thoughts as they happen, being aware as even of a story as it's unfolding, but we're not lost in it. We're able to recognize what's happening. This is a story, this is a thought. So one of the things that Sadhu U Tejaniya says, he says, moha or delusion doesn't obscure the object, but it obscures the nature of the object. So we might know what's happening in moha, but we don't really understand its true nature. We don't understand the significance of what's being experienced. So we don't understand that the object is conditioned, for example, that it arises on the basis of causes and conditions, and when those causes and conditions sort of stop, then the object runs out of steam. There's nothing there. So we don't understand when moha is present, that the object, the experience, may be just really fleeting. It's always changing, and that it has no inherent nature, no inherent sort of self nature. It's not belong. It doesn't belong to me. It's not owned by me. So all of these things are missed when we sort of moha, grabs hold of something or pushes it away. So we can work with these key delusions in the mind. We can see them in action when we're present, when we're aware. So I find it quite exciting, the idea of working with, in a way, what's quite a sort of shadowy, foggy, sort of like its nature is to obscure what's really happening. So it's like learning with awareness to just look directly at that fog, not expecting or hoping that you necessarily instantly see things, but just learning to be with something that has that sort of obscuring nature, and being patient. Awareness has patience as one of its qualities, to recognize eventually what's happening. So I'm going to leave it there. And if you'd like to set yourself up to sit,